The shocking and heartbreaking news of Charlie Kirk's killing has stirred a strong reaction from many public figures, highlighting just how deeply political violence rattles our society. But here's where it gets controversial. Beyond the immediate tragedy, the event raises difficult questions about the culture of political discourse in America today. Stephen Colbert delivered a deeply somber message about the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk on the September 10th episode of The Late Show. Kirk, known as a conservative activist and co-founder of Turning Point USA, was shot and killed earlier that day during an event at Utah Valley University. Authorities launched a manhunt for the suspect, leaving the nation in shock and fear. Because The Late Show tapes in the afternoon, Colbert explained that the shooting happened after the episode had already been written. So he opened the broadcast by addressing the tragic news directly from his desk, breaking into the usual entertainment tone with heartfelt seriousness. "Our deepest condolences go out to Charlie Kirk's family and everyone who loved him," Colbert said, reflecting on the pain behind the headlines. He went on to share a personal reflection, saying, "I am old enough to remember the political violence of the 1960s firsthand, and I want to make it crystal clear to everyone in America. Violence as a response to political differences, it only spirals into more violence. It doesn't solve anything." This historical reference helps frame the current tragedy as part of a recurring cycle that our society desperately needs to break. Colbert expressed a fervent hope that this act was the despicable deed of a disturbed individual, not a disturbing sign of worsening times ahead. Then, with a nod to professionalism and resilience, he transitioned to the episode they had planned before the news broke. Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel chose not to address the shooting in his September 10th broadcast of Jimmy Kimmel Live. His monologue that night focused on President Donald Trump. However, earlier in the day, Kimmel took to Instagram to voice his condemnation and sorrow. His message cut through the political noise. Instead of the angry finger-pointing, can we just for one day agree that shooting another human being is horrible and monstrous? He extended his sympathies to Kirk's family and all the innocent victims of gun violence, emphasizing the broader human cost that often gets lost amid political blame games. The response from political leaders added another layer to the national conversation. Utah Governor Spencer Cox labeled the murder a political assassination, making clear the gravity with which the crime was viewed at local government levels. Former President Donald Trump spoke from the Oval Office, calling the killing a heinous assassination and expressing both grief and fury. His statement called out the media and the American public, warning that continuous demonization of political opponents, expressed through hateful rhetoric, eventually leads to tragic violence. Trump's remarks carry a controversial undertone, sparking debate on whether political discourse itself is to blame, and if so, whose responsibility it truly is to tone it down. On social media, actor Chris Pratt joined the chorus of voices, posting on X, formerly Twitter, that he was praying not only for Charlie Kirk, but for his family and for the country at large, acknowledging the broader impact of such acts of violence. "We need God's grace. God help us," he wrote, offering a spiritual plea during a moment of national mourning. In the aftermath, Comedy Central made the decision to pull a rerun of a South Park episode that had aired on August the 6th and included a parody of Charlie Kirk. This move illustrates the sensitivity surrounding the tragedy and how media outlets are navigating the fine line between satire and respect in the wake of real-world violence. But here's the part most people miss. Incidents like this expose just how fragile our collective political environment has become. Are these acts isolated, or are they symptoms of a deeper, more dangerous divide? Does the intense polarization save us from extremism, or fuel it? And what role do influential voices, comedians, politicians, celebrities, play in either easing tensions or exacerbating them? As we reflect on this tragic loss, it's important to ask ourselves, how do we move forward as a nation without falling prey to the very cycle of hate and violence that this killing represents? Are we doing enough to condemn violence clearly without politicizing the pain for partisan gain. I invite you to share your thoughts. Do you believe political rhetoric contributes to such tragedies, or is this just an unfortunate incident disconnected from broader discourse? Your perspective could open a vital conversation.